It is 25 days till we all head to the polls to cast our vote for the presidential election. We are joined now by the person widely seen as the main challenger to President Micheal D. Higgins. Sean Gallagher, you're very welcome.
Lovely to be with you, Shane.
Now, Sean, one of your rival candidates, Peter Casey, has said you were missing in action since 2011. Where did you go for the last 7 years?
Well, one of the things with Peter in this campaign, we'll not be short of entertainment.
No.
But we'll get back to the more serious situation of the campaign. In 2011, Shane, I had outlined a vision for Ireland and for my presidency at the time, and that was to do for jobs what Mary McAleese had done for the peace process. And so as a citizen after the election, I continued to focus on that. I suppose it's important for listeners to understand that after an election, such as the presidential election in particular, there's a period where you have to regroup, because I felt somewhere between the world of business and politics at the time. And so I had stepped back from everything in my businesses. And so I was really, like many people in the country, starting again. And so I was providing for myself and my family. And so I launched another business. And in the same vein as trying to support job creation, I launched a business in office and industrial workspace. And over the last 7 years, we've created a lot of space for companies, both SMEs and foreign direct investment companies, multinationals, which are now creating and supporting the creation of thousands of jobs right across the country and mostly outside of Dublin.
And that's very admirable. And a lot of people would say, you're fair play to you for doing that and give credit. But why not, if you do want to make a difference, if you're interested in a life in politics, and being president is a political role. I mean, we had a local election, we had a European election, we had a general election that time. Why not go for one of them? Why not stand for one? If you really want to make a difference.
I think the role of president, while the route to it is political, the role is not political.
It's not party
It's not party political. It's about representing people. And I think it's about setting values in society. And about so just to get back to what I was doing, because I wasn't just creating business. I was coaching and mentoring lots of other companies. I was also writing. For 6 years, I wrote every week in the Sunday Independent, profiling SMEs who are creating jobs in communities that are sustaining those communities, generating tax that pays for all the public services. But there were other issues that I campaigned on. Again, I, like many companies in the downturn, our business was severely affected. So I spent 6 years and thousands of hours campaigning for a new legislation for people working in the construction sector. And today, tens of thousands of people are better off.
Would you be
and
better
I continue to advance my campaign for advocacy for those with disabilities.
Again, very noble things. The argument would be, why not continue to do that rather than put on a set of handcuffs and live in Oris and Outron for the next 7 years?
Because I don't believe the role of the president is one that is as constrained as you might suggest. I look back to the people who inspired me initially. Mary Robinson, the great work she did. Mary McAleese, particularly where I come from in the border area. Mary McAleese and her husband Martin did incredible work behind the scenes, using the office of the president and the power that comes with that to create relationships that help build trust across communities, which I think was the foundation and will be the foundation for a united Ireland in my lifetime.
OK, I do want to look ahead to what a Sean Gallagher presidency would be, but just let's get 2011 out of the way. You had an almost unassailable lead in the polls just days out from the election. Why didn't you win?
And I guess I'm happy to talk about that briefly, and I suppose what I really want to do, as I've tried to do, is put that behind me.
Yeah, no,
that was 2011,
and we will do that. And we will talk plenty about what you're going to do.
2018. Well, why didn't I suppose it's well documented. I spent 6 years in a protracted legal case with RTE. I felt the programme was unfair. A false tweet, fake Twitter account caused me to momentarily doubt my own memory. And I think people who were at home watching that, and many people who have said to me since, had considered voting for me up to that point, but thought that I looked unconvincing in my answer. And you have to put yourself live on television, last debate, false tweet. I had stated that accusation had been false many times, and the debate had moved on. It had been dealt with the week previous by a newspaper, felt to be unfounded. But on live on air, you get thrown. Unfortunately, that happened. People switched, and I had to spend time the last 6 years fighting that case to get. And I accept the apology from RTE.
Were you very scarred by that experience?
I wouldn't say scarred, but I had to. I felt in my heart that I had to come back and get justice and fairness. And people often say, well, was that about myself, or did I have some sort of resentment? I didn't. But in everything, Shane, in my life where I find unfairness, I have a responsibility to stand up to that, because if I don't, who will? And you have, as Paul O'Connor would say, you have to win the moment in front of your face.
Yeah.
And so I took that case, but here's the truth of what will happen. In this debate, in these debates in 2018, we're going to see a lot of changes in the national broadcaster, which I think will create fairness for all the candidates. And there has to be a positive outcome for every negative we face in our lives. How can you create change?
Was it all RT's fault, or did you make mistakes?
Of course. And, I put my hands up and said that was not my finest performance in terms of responding to that question. I should have been clearer. I should have been more definitive, and I wasn't. But I suppose, like everybody, there's nobody that doesn't look back at some event in our life and wish that we had done differently or done better. And that was one of them. And it was a costly mistake for me personally. It took me a long time not to get over the fact that I hadn't won the election, but the fact of how it ended. And that but I'm over that now, and I've accepted RT's apologies, and for me, I've moved on. I've made what I think are the changes that I can to contribute to effectively the democratic process, so that everybody who steps forward will be guaranteed fairness.
I asked you, Sean, were you scarred by that experience? Just if you have a second there, put on your headphones, because I want to play a clip. We had Terry Prone on the show. I know you know Terry well. She was on the show last week running the rule over the various candidates, and she had this to say about you.
Sean Gallagher is known, he's liked, he has a sort of a brand in public. His great disadvantage is that he seems to me to have been almost poleaxed by what happened to him last time, and therefore he's being much more formal and defensive than suits his personality. And the question will be, can he loosen up enough to just react to questions and not over-answer them?
Okay, what do you say to that?
I can see why Terry Prone is so successful. She's dead right. And when you come through a process like that, where you're expecting the next question, is there something going to come out of the far left? People said to me, honestly, Shane, after the last election, towards the end, people afterwards said, Sean, where is the Sean Gallagher that we love so much, who's happy and bouncy and bubbly? You weren't smiling. And that is the truth. That's the challenge of being in the public eye, particularly something that happened. But I think we all face that in our lives when we have something that has happened to us. It makes us more conscious, more self-aware. But it's not about that. I get past that. It's about the message I have for the people of Ireland. I want to bring my skills and my experience to help Ireland at this time. And I'm also now, since the last time, I'm a father of 2 children, Bobby 5 and Lucy 2. As a parent, that changes your outlook. Sure. And I want to help create an Ireland that they grow up in. And I also want to, we'll all get a chance, one chance in life, Shane, to make an impact. If I was honoured to be president, I want in 7 years to look back and say, what did I do with it that I could feel content and fulfilled to have made a difference in the lives of as many people as possible?
On that, I was taken by something you said a couple of weeks ago. You said you did not wish to be Micheal D. Higgins' replacement. You wished instead to be his successor and to continue the great work he's done. Which begs the question then, well, why vote for Sean Gallagher? Why not just vote for Micheal D. Higgins?
Because I think everybody has a time, and there's a set of skill sets that suits, a particular time.
His time has passed?
I would say that the next 7 years are different, and I think the challenges that Ireland is facing now are very different, and I think it requires a fresh approach. There are areas and priorities, and I think every president brings...
A younger approach?
Well, I think every president brings their own skill sets and their own set of priorities. Mary McAleese was about peace building and bridge building. Mary Robinson was about putting women at the heart of public life and society. And Micheal D. Higgins has done much around dignity and ethics and culture and art. All great. For me, I have a number of key objectives that I would like to look back in 7 years' time, Shane, and say I made a difference in people's lives. One of those, and drawing on my own experience, not just my work experience, but my life experience. I grew up with a visual impairment. So I've struggled most of my life with things, but I've never allowed myself to be defined by that. I would like in 7 years' time to look back and say that I was able to help change the perception among the public about people with disabilities. But more importantly too, to have given those with a disability a sense of confidence that they would feel that they can stand up and have a right to live their life to the best of their potential. That's one of those 5 areas. So I have 5 key areas that I want to
we'll come back to some of those in a moment. A couple of quick questions about Micheal D. Higgins. You spoke about your campaign being an energetic campaign. That was a bit of a dig at Micheal D. Higgins and his age, wasn't it?
No, all my life I've dedicated my life to health and wellness and fitness. I think the office requires energy. It's a very strong, it's a very demanding role.
Does he have that energy?
I bring energy to everything.
Does Micheal D. Higgins have that energy?
Not for me to comment on every other candidate, but I would say this. I've been incredibly impressed by Micheal D. Higgins. He's given a lifetime of public service. And one of the things in the last campaign and also in this campaign, I will only be speaking positive of all the candidates. Because if we require and want more people to come forward into political life, we need to celebrate the fact that they're courageous to do it. And I have no doubt that every candidate that steps forward has a passion for Ireland and wants to make a difference, and I will not criticise that.
Will you be making any comment, or do you have any comment to make on that expenses issue, the 317,000 annual allowance to the President? Now, it was there before Micheal D. Higgins. Sure. It's important to say that, but he was refusing, reports yesterday, the President refusing to clarify whether he'd ever use some of his allowances to top up the salaries of his advisors. What's your take on that? Does he need to reveal that in your view?
Again, I think bringing it up to a higher level, I think all public funding needs to be accounted for, and it needs to be transparent in how it was spent. I think that's something that the public deserve and the public want. I, in the last 2 weeks, made a decision to make a declaration to SIPO, the Standards in Public Office, to declare all my interests, various interests, just like all the Oireachtas members and the Taoiseach himself does every single year. And I've said that I would publish that every year, whether or not that is a requirement by law. It's just in the interest of making sure that all public money, taxpayers' money, that people feel that it's being spent well, and there's no suggestion that it's not, but people want it accounted for and they want transparency.
Okay, should he reveal how he has spent that money, do you think?
Again, that's a matter for him, but I'm leading by example in terms of what I do.
He must have a view on it.
I think all public funding needs to be accounted for, and it needs to be transparent. The people deserve that.
Interesting lead story in the Times Ireland edition today. You did an interview over the weekend with Jennifer Bray, their political correspondent, in which you said you would campaign for United Ireland. Now, I'm sure I don't need to remind you of what the Constitution says, that basically any powers of the President should be exercised and performed by him only on the advice of the government. That's going way outside your remit, isn't it?
Yeah, and I wouldn't like to challenge what Jennifer said. We had a very long and engaging interview. What I was saying was that I believe there will be a united Ireland in my lifetime. And I believe that will, before that can happen, it's picking back up on the work that Mary McAleese and Martin McAleese did. It's about creating relationships. It's about building trust, which is the foundation, I believe, of a discussion about uniting people before we unite territories. I grew up like you did along the border. I mean, it's ironic that Arlene Foster lived less than 20 miles from where I grew up on the borders in Cavan, and yet while we were geographically closer than any other political leader I know, we were worlds apart in everything else. So we need to create opportunities for individuals to connect, for communities, for youth groups, for sporting groups, for politicians both sides, to build that sense of trust. I believe partition has never served us well in the past. I don't believe it will serve Ireland socioeconomically.
And many people share that view, Sean. But if you're president, that's getting into the political arena. I mean, in the interview, there's reference to you addressing local authorities in Northern Ireland. I mean, would the Taoiseach even allow you to leave the state to do that?
And I said that to Jennifer, that if invited, I would like to address the local authorities because I think, as I would in every local authority in Ireland, because I think it is about getting close to the people. But the idea of working with the government, supporting that, this is not a solo run. I think we are moving in that direction. And the point I was making is that the President can do much. I'd like to be a President for all the people of Ireland who want me as their President. And a friend to everyone.
Within the parameters of the Constitution, or are you trying to push those parameters?
No, within the parameters. I think Mary McAleese didn't need to change the legislation around the Constitution. It was less about legislation and more about imagination. There are many people who have who believe in the North that they are Irish. It's every bit as Irish as you and I. Yeah. And they would like
an entirely legitimate way to feel.
And they would like to have a vote in the presidency, and they would like the President to visit. And obviously, that's on the basis of an invitation representation from the various local authorities, or indeed politicians or community groups, and obviously with the approval of the government. But I would like to be there, given my background and given my life experience along the border and working in those areas with the North-South Trade Body set up under the Good Friday Agreement. I spent a number of years as a board director of that, helping to shape the island economy, and I think it needs to go beyond that now, and a president can do much, I believe, to help set that tone and lead in that way.
Sean, we're just out of time, but just very finally, your pitch to the nation, why should you be president? Why should Sean Gallagher be president, particularly when we have a president who seems to be doing okay, most people think?
For me, when the president on Inauguration Day declares to the nation that they are going to put their ability to use to serve the Irish people, I want to put not just my business experience, but my life experience as a professional youth worker, coming with the experience of coaching and mentoring young people all my life, the experience of having worked with and come through having a disability, to put disability front and centre, to build communities, but on the values of respect for ourselves, respect for each other, responsibility where we all step forward and encouraged and nurtured to step forward, to be leaders in our community, and most importantly to create a sense of community where everybody feels included. To me, it's that life experience at a time when Ireland is changing that I want to play my part, like everybody else, in shaping the next 7 years of Ireland's future.
Sean Gallagher, presidential candidate, thanks indeed for coming in to us in the morning.